Hello JCA, I'm so happy you guys are here today. I wanted to give you some more details about the 8-week Healthy Habits Challenge that is starting next Sunday. So every single Sunday on this video that I record every Sunday at 11:30 a.m., starting next week, I'm going to be challenging you with a nutrition habit, a healthy eating habit that I would ask for you to implement during that week. After those 8 weeks, I guarantee you that you and your family, if you follow along with the recommendations that I make each week, you will turn a corner in your health. You will improve your health in the short term and in the long term. So every single week, starting next Sunday during this video, you will tune in. I will give you that week's theme or that week's recommendation and something that we will be working on, and each week you will implement that habit. I learned today that I am allowed to offer every single person who registers for that and completes the entire 8 weeks. Every person who does that will receive a free short nutrition session, about a 30-minute session with me, individual session with me. So it's really worth your while. It will improve your short and long-term health, and you will also get an individual nutrition session with me once the 8 weeks is completed. I will be asking that you'll be posting on the video that I post, just telling me sort of like what your thoughts and what your challenges are with that recommendation of the week, and that you send me an email each week just telling me what your experience is like, just so that I know that you're following along, making sure that there's some accountability to perform the tasks that I request. However, they are all realistic, doable, healthy eating habits that will absolutely improve your health and the health of your family. So let me know. You can easily post on this video post if you want. Let me know that you want to be a part of this. And each week, starting next week for 8 weeks, you will tune in. I will give you that recommendation. You'll post or send me an email letting me know what your challenges are and how the experience is going. And at the end of those 8 weeks, whoever has completed all of those tasks and has let me know each week that they were involved, you will get a nutrition session with me, individual session. So I think this is going to be really worth all of your while. I hope we can get as much engagement as possible. I'm excited to really have an impact on your health and the health of your family. So tune in again next week. I'll be posting all of those instructions again throughout this week on Facebook, so you can see exactly what it's going to entail and what everything that I just reviewed. So it'll all be written out for you. So I really can't wait for this. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about protein bars. So I get questions all the time about, well, what's your favorite bar? What is something I could just grab and eat, a favorite protein bar, to have throughout the weeks that I don't have to cook all the time or prepare lunches, and maybe like a meal replacement or a really healthy snack or something like that. And I always, unfortunately, have to give the answer that I really don't love that idea. I don't love the protein bars that are on the market. When you look through the ingredient labels on those bars, there usually always includes sugar or some type of preservatives or ingredients like guar gums and certain ingredients that are not recognized by your body as food. And I always like to explain, anytime you eat something that is not recognized by your body as a whole unprocessed food, that it has the potential to trigger inflammation. So although it's less convenient, cooking from scratch is always preferred, and having whole food in a meal is always preferred. But I get it. It's so much easier to just have something prepared, a bar that you could just grab and go. So why not make it ourselves? That way we are in control of every ingredient that we put in. We can choose all whole, unprocessed ingredients, and we can make it full of healthy fat and protein and vitamins and minerals from some fruits and nuts and things like that. So that's what I'm doing today, and I cannot wait for these to be ready and it to be a healthy part of my, meals throughout the week. The other thing that I wanted to say is, if you are looking at it as a snack, I always recommend, number one, trying to avoid snacking as much as possible, trying to wait between meals to get to the next meal, and sort of giving your body several hours in between meals where you're not snacking or eating. However, if you are going to be snacking for whatever reason, try to snack on foods that are higher in protein and fat versus carbohydrate. So I know it's a very common thing when you're gonna have a snack to think, oh, well, I'll have a fruit and that has to be healthy, right? But when you eat carbohydrates on their own, by themselves, they trigger an insulin response. Insulin slows down your metabolism, it causes food to be stored as fat. It can cause inflammation sometimes when the insulin is too high. But when you snack or eat foods that are higher in fat and protein, they don't trigger that insulin response. So if you are going to be snacking in between meals, that is my recommendation. And that's what I'm going to show you today with these bars, is that I'm going to be heavy on the fat and protein, and I am going to be adding some carbohydrate, because as a combination, when carbohydrates are eaten along with protein and fat, then they don't trigger that insulin response as much as when the carbohydrate is eaten all by itself. Okay. So let's get started. You probably, if you've tuned in for the past couple of weeks, you may have already learned that I'm absolutely obsessed with this new kitchen tool that I have. It's called an Instant Pot blender. Yeah, who knew that Instant Pot makes more than just that, crock pot type Instant Pot that we're used to. They also make a blender, and what's amazing about this blender is that you can heat it up. It actually, you set it for soup, or you set it for something that you want to be hot, and it first increases the temperature to reach a temperature that is needed, and then it does the blending or the pureeing or whatever type of mix you need. But yes, you can actually make hot food in this blender, and it is made from glass. So you don't have to worry. I know I am one of those people that does worry about, eating things out of plastic that has been heated. So this is a glass blender that can make hot foods, and no, I don't work for this company, but I may as well, because I definitely sell it. I love it, and I have been obsessed with it and using it almost every week. So some of the first ingredients that I'm going to be putting into my granola protein bar, oat bars, however you want to call it, is number one, a mashed banana. And yeah, I don't know if you noticed that. I probably should have gone a little slower, but yes, peeling a banana from the opposite end, not from this part, but from this part, is actually easier. So I recommend that. So let me just grab a fork, because I'm going to start off with mashing my banana. And what I have in my blender is strawberries. So yeah, you can so easily just make your own strawberry jam or jelly. That's one thing that people like to put on their bread, or whatever, breakfast you're having is some jelly. And rather than just buying it from the store, and which is really high in added sugars, or sometimes artificial sweeteners, you can make your own, literally just blending strawberries and letting it simmer on the stovetop. You can add a little bit of honey or maple syrup if you wanted to sweeten it a little bit. But making your own jam is way better than eating the high sugar products or even products on the market that have the artificial sweeteners. Again, artificial sweeteners are those ingredients that your body doesn't recognize as a food and could trigger some type of inflammation. Okay, so I have my mashed banana in here. I'm going to be adding 2 eggs to that. And soon enough, I'm going to add that pureed strawberries that I have in my Instant Pot blender. These eggs are from chickens that are pasture raised and caged free and organic. And those are always the best type of eggs to eat because you know that the animals themselves aren't inflamed, right? If you choose meat or eggs or whatever for animal protein from animals that are full of inflammation, and I'm not talking about hormones or antibiotics, which I know a lot of companies like to market their products as saying hormone-free or antibiotic-free, but we're not talking about that because actually that is just a marketing ploy. Did you know that it's illegal to use hormones and antibiotics on animals that we eat in this country? So all animal protein that we eat, all of it is hormone and antibiotic free. So when they write that on the label, it's just a marketing ploy. Every single animal protein that we eat is hormone and antibiotic free. But what I'm talking about are treating animals nicely, letting them roam freely and feeding them healthy feed so that the animals are not stressed out and so that they don't have inflammation in their own body that we are going to consume. So that's the difference between choosing the high quality meats that are grass-fed and organic and blah, 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 versus animals that are caged and fed grains and things like that. It's not the hormones and the antibiotics that make the difference. It's the lack of inflammation. That's the difference. So that's a new tip. There you go. Okay, so I have my 2 eggs in here. I have my banana mashed up. And then I'm going to add some of my pureed strawberries to that. And by the way, these smelled so good when I pureed these strawberries. About a half of a cup, probably. And then I'm gonna use the rest of that for maybe making my own jam. I'm gonna, like I said before, simmer it on the stovetop with a little bit of, maple syrup or honey. And I think I am gonna add a tiny bit of maple syrup to this. Probably just about a teaspoon. That should do it. I don't want these to be super sweet. And then I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla extract, which is something I love the flavor of vanilla extract or even almond extract. So I add those all the time. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Okay. And then a little bit of salt. I just want a small amount of that. Okay. All right, so these are sort of my wet ingredients. And I've discussed this a few times before, so maybe you've heard me talk about this, but I think it's worth mentioning again that all of my sweetener, my sugar alternatives that I recommend are honey, maple syrup, dates. I love dates. They are so healthy for you and they have a really great, delicious, sweet flavor. stevia extract and molasses. Those are the sweeteners that I absolutely love. Again, if you imagine the way that foods are taken out of nature, that is the way you want to eat them in your home. And that's how you know that they are whole and unprocessed, and your body will recognize them and there won't be any inflammation. And if you imagine the way maple syrup looks in nature versus in your house, you know it's the same. And there was nothing added and nothing taken away. So same thing with honey, even stevia extract, it's a sweetener that's taken from the plant, and it is an antioxidant. So it really does help reduce inflammation in your body. It's healthy for you. And same thing with dates and all the sweeteners that I mentioned. So those are some really great sugar alternatives, and that is why making these kind of things from home is so much better for us, because we can replace the sugar with these sweeteners, and right there we're making a huge step in the right direction. Imagine that, how processed sugar is. When sugar that is in your home, when you buy it, table sugar, it doesn't look the way it did when it was picked out of nature, right? Imagine the process that it had to go to get to this white powder on your table versus the way it was picked in nature. Totally different, and that is a processed food. Even though things haven't been added to it, things have been taken out of it. Same thing with white flour. White flour is a very highly processed ingredient. It didn't look like that in nature. It had to be taken out of a grain, and all the fiber had to be taken out of it before they could process it into this white powder, and that ends up in your food. So even though things aren't added to a food, if something is taken out of the food, that is also considered processed. Okay. All right, I'm getting so much ahead of myself with the talking that I'm not getting any cooking done. Okay, so here I have a cup of almond flour. You could use coconut flour, but again, that's a really great replacement for white flour. If you imagine the way almond flour is made, nothing is taken out of that almond, nothing is added to it. It's exactly the way it was in nature, except that it's changed its form. We just obviously mashed it, or however it was made, into the white powder. But it's still not processed like the way that white flour had to be processed in order to get that into the powder that it is. So almond flour, coconut flour, I love the flavor of coconut flour. Right here I have a cup of oats. So we are gluten-free in my home, and we could talk about that topic another time. But these are gluten-free oats. So if you are gluten-free, then you have to look for that. Make sure that you're sticking with your own food restrictions as much as you have to. And then what I'm going to add are some chopped pecans. I think this is probably about 3/4 of a cup, if I had to guess. You can see I'm a little bit eyeballing some of these amounts, but I will be able to, if I feel like it needs to be more moist, then I will add more of the strawberry puree. And then if I feel like it needs to be a little thicker, then I could add either more of the almond flour, or this is another topic that I wanted to talk about. The way that I am making these into protein bars is I am going to be adding some collagen powder. What is collagen powder? Number one, this is not a complete protein. So if you are trying to consume more protein because you're trying to maintain muscle mass, then this is not what you need. You need a complete protein powder, one that does not just say collagen, but one that says protein powder. Collagen doesn't contain all of the amino acids, which are the the building blocks of protein. It does not contain all of the amino acids that make for a complete protein. So I know that gets a little complicated, and if you have any questions or you just want me to explain that again in a different way, I absolutely will. But while it's not a complete protein, it absolutely still has really good benefits. So collagen will help your hair and your nails and your bones. It's definitely healthy for you, and it contains many of the amino acids of a protein, but just not all of them. But collagen is good for your joints. The only thing, or actually I would say there's two things I would say to be careful for. Number one, if you are intolerant to dairy, then you have to make sure that you're looking for that on the label and make sure you're not picking one that has whey in it, because whey is dairy. Number two, if you struggle with constipation, then having collagen powder every single day is not going to be the way to go, because that could actually promote a little bit more constipation. So two things to be careful for with collagen powder is if you are intolerant to dairy, look for that. Make sure the whey is not there, because whey is a part of dairy. Number two, if you have constipation, then you might want to cut back on the collagen. The other thing is if you are looking for protein because you need muscle mass, then this is not the way to go. You need a full, complete protein powder. If you're looking more for your joint health and your nails and your hair and your skin, then collagen powder is the way to go. Okay, so I hope that was clear. But in order to make these bars protein, I am going to be adding some amino acids. So it is in the realm of protein. It's just not a complete protein. Okay, and this is another thing that I could use to thicken if I feel like my bars are, not thick enough. Okay, and again, adding protein and the fat from the pecans are ways to sort of balance out the carbohydrates that I'm getting from the oats and the strawberry and the bananas. So I mentioned before, when you're eating carbohydrates, it's good to eat it in combination with protein and fat, so that doesn't trigger that insulin response the way carbohydrates would if you were eating them all by themselves. Okay. So I covered lots of topics today. I hope that everything that I talked about is clear, but please feel free to let me know if you need one of those topics repeated or if you have any questions. Okay, we're getting towards the end. What I am going to do at the end of this is I'm going to spread this out on a greased pan, and I'm going to bake it at 375 degrees in the oven for probably, I'm gonna check on it, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, I would assume. But I will let you know afterwards, and I can absolutely share with you the entire recipe if you're interested. But before I go away, I do want to repeat what is going to be starting next Sunday. So I am thrilled about this opportunity to start next Sunday as an 8-week healthy habits challenge, where every single week I'm going to be challenging you to adopt a new healthy eating habit. I will ask that you would just post on the bottom of the video how you're doing and what's going, each week just give me a little post saying I'm working on this, and then send me a little email telling me about your experience, just so that I know that you're a part of it. Why that is important is because everybody who finishes the entire 8 weeks and had that accountability with me throughout all of those 8 weeks, every one of you will receive a free individual nutrition session with me. So not only will those 8 weeks give you the opportunity to eat better foods and become a little bit more healthy and hopefully promote your family's health as well. But then after the 8 weeks, you will also get some individual meetings with me. So that is going to be such a fun way to really improve your short and long-term health, as well as get some good engagement, some accountability, which is what we all need. I mean, imagine how many New Year's resolutions that we all try to make and they go out the window in about a week, right? So here we will have the chance to really stay accountable with each other, stick with the recommendations I'm making, and I commit to you that my recommendations will be achievable. I am not going to be expecting you to, to eliminate all food groups and count your calories. And, I really am just going to be promoting healthy eating with habits that we can all get better at, and they are all realistic and achievable. Okay. So like I said, I actually think that this consistency is pretty good. I'm just trying to see, I might end up adding another little bit of the strawberry flavor, just to top it off. And then I also might add more of this after they're all cooked. I might sort of spread more of my strawberry puree right over the top of the bars. I think that'll make them really, really pretty. And then I also feel like I want to add a few more nuts. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to spread them all across my greased pan. I'm going to stick that into my oven at 375 degrees and let them cook for probably 30 to 45 minutes. I really just want to be able to check on them and let you know exactly how long it takes, because I don't know for sure yet. But I will absolutely post the final product, and if you want the recipe, please let me know. But look for those instructions that I post this week for the challenge for next Sunday, starting next Sunday, and let me know that you want to be a part of this, because I just need a little bit of that accountability so that you could be allowed to have that free individual nutrition session with me after the 8 weeks is over. So have a great week, everybody. It was so nice to see you all. Thank you for coming, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.